Thank you all for joining us today for today's webinar. Today's topic is Microsoft Teams Lab, Session 1, Teams Communications. This is a part of an ongoing series that will be taking place every Wednesday at 10 a.m. We're very glad to have you here with us today. My name is Jack Reedy, Senior Business Developer here at TLC Tech. To keep everything on track and not go over the allotted time, we will be muting all participants for the duration of this webinar. After each section, we will take a few questions related to the topic. If your question is not answered, there will be an opportunity to ask questions at the end of the webinar during the Q&A segment. If you do have a question, please type it into the question pod of your GoToWebinar control panel. We will cover the more advanced questions in the third session. We'll also be sending out an email after this webinar, so you'll be able to sign up for next week's webinar. We will be having webinar series weekly every Wednesday at 10 a.m. covering Microsoft 365 technologies. We will have a few webinars on the features of Teams, and then we'll move into other aspects of the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, including Microsoft Planner, OneDrive, SharePoint, Stream, and other features. At this time, I'd like to introduce you to today's instructor, Michael Nelson, President and Founder of TLC Tech, Sacramento-based IT company dedicated to helping businesses grow and thrive through Microsoft integrations, managed IT services, and cybersecurity solutions. Now I'll turn it over to Michael, who will share with you our agenda in Microsoft Teams.
Hi, everybody, and thank you very much for attending. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, I'm going to log into Teams. Some of you may notice the domain name that I'm logging into is tlctech.us, not tlctech.com. We're using this as a show-off account so that we don't accidentally have something pop up on my screen during a live presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and log on. As you see, it behaves like everything else does. It asks for your email address and password. Once it logs me in, then I get into the Teams environment. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you what we're going to go over today. And today is all about communication. Next week will be about collaboration. So today's session, we're going to talk about chats, individual, group, what's private, what's public. We're going to talk about how channels work inside a team. We're going to actually show you how to create a team, and then we're going to do team calls with voice, video, screen sharing, and whatnot. So that's going to be the agenda today. When you all signed up, we asked the question, how many of you have never used it before or were casual users? And about half of you said you had never used it before, and about half were casual users. So for the people that are casual users, I would say probably 70 to 80% of this will be repetitive, but you should pick up a couple of cool tips and tricks. Next session in collaboration, we'll do even more. And then the third section is tips, tricks, and hacks. There'll be some really cool things that we're going to be showing you in there. So I'm going to start with a concept that Microsoft Teams is really trying to become a principal part of your daily experience, and they keep adding more and more and more things into it. If you notice from my Teams, I can get to my calendar, I can make calls, my chat. I can also get to other things, files and folders that I want to. So there's a lot of it's not just for chatting with or organizing content for different people. Ultimately, where I see, this is a personal opinion, but where I see Microsoft going is they're trying to make this effectively your main desktop view so that this would be what you mainly work from. And as we dig into it, you'll see how that could actually work. Again, reminder, we're in a test environment, so it's not going to be as robust right now. You'll see, so when we go into chat windows, there's just going to be some kind of junk chats in there, not real chats. And Jack already mentioned that we're going to be doing this regularly on Wednesdays. Most Wednesdays, I am going to take a vacation in there, so there'll be a break in the session there. And again, we've already talked about what we're going to cover, so let me just start in with that. So we're going to start with the chat, and Jack and I my guess is most of you are familiar with this. These are going to be the main actions that you can see inside of Teams. So you've got the chat window, the Teams, calls, calendar, files. We'll go through those throughout the next few weeks. So for right now, I'm just going to do a chat with Jack. This is very much like instant messaging or texting to somebody. It's instantaneous. It goes back and forth. I can see that Jack's typing a response. Sorry, it's hard to type and talk at the same time. So we go back and forth like this. These are private messages between me and Jack. Nobody else can see those messages. The one caveat I will give you, because this came up in other sessions, is Microsoft does have the ability to turn on we as your partner would have to turn this on at an administrative level, but it's called journaling, e-discovery, where it holds everything for electronic discovery. Some businesses are legally complied to do that. That means that data is being potentially saved and accessible. It is not easy to get to in any way, shape, or form. So if you're worried about casually somebody being able to see your chat, not at all possible. So that's on the individual. And just a reminder, if you have questions, you have a little questions area on the left-hand side, and you can pop questions into that.
We do have a few questions if you wanted to.
Yeah, please go right ahead.
So we do have, is this the same or similar to Zoom from Steve Scoville?
So Zoom is much more based upon meetings. Teams is absolutely able to do meetings, and we'll be going into that towards the end of this session. But Teams is so much more than just about meetings. It's the ability to chat like we're doing now. We'll get into how it works within channels. Steve, you'll find a lot of things over the next couple of weeks that it can do. It's really quite amazing, all of the things that it can do. What else do we have?
One other one, I think you might have clarified it for her, but we had, when are the other sessions? Are they later today from Mario Cutter?
No, they're going to be every weekday, every Wednesday from 10 to 10:45 on a weekly basis. I don't think anybody wants to have to listen to me more than once a day or once a week there. So go ahead and keep typing in questions as you have them. So Jack and I did that. Now I have another one, a group chat that is between Jack and Lisa. So in here, we need to schedule, and I can't type, so it's even worse. Now, this is going to both of them at the same time. This is a chat, again, now this is only visible to me and Lisa and Jack, but anything we say in here pops up immediately when we're in here. So Jack obviously got it. Lisa may or may not have read it. I can see that she has seen it because the little eyes. So if I mouse over that, it says seen by everybody. So I know Lisa has seen it. You may notice that down here I have recent and I have pinned. I don't know if any of you have used the Windows 10 trick that you can pin like a Word document, but same thing here. You can use these three ellipses. You'll hear me talk about these ellipses a lot to pin it to the top. So what it means is it just puts it in. It's effectively like putting it into my favorites. One of the things in tlctech.com, in my primary one, I've got probably 30 different chat rooms because sometimes I may talk to 2 employees, but that may happen very, very rarely. There's about 8 chats that I'm in either individually or like we have a leadership chat at my company. Those, I have all of those pinned at the top, so they're easy to get to, quick to find. So you can pin, you can talk to people individually, and if you want to start a new chat, you just simply click new, start typing the name. Let me see, who am I going to do here? So let's say I wanted to do a new one with Christopher. Now you can see right below, I already have been chatting with him, but I can do the chat. If you see I've already had a chat window going with him, it'll pull up my previous chat. So even if you've got a long list down here and you don't want to search to find it, you just type new chat, put it in. If you've already chatted with him, it'll carry that one forward.
And we did have one other question.
Yes.
And from April Gracia, is there a way to chat and share the screen at the same time? It would be helpful to work with an employee who does not have a camera or microphone on their computer.
Absolutely. And Jack, do me a favor, make sure that we talk about that when you and I are doing our video meeting, because it's
Absolutely.
easier to show that when we're in that. So put a note for that, please. And April, we'll get to that one as soon as we get into that section. Okay, so we've talked about individual chatting, group chatting. All of these chats are private to whom you're having the conversation with. Now I'm going to flip over to the Teams area. Now we've got some pre-created teams in here, and I'm just closing them up so that you can see. These are the teams that have been created. It's easy to create a team. We're going to show you how to do that in a second. But within the team, for example, this webinar show off, I have a channel. Every time, think about this like a, for like Lisa at my office, she's our business manager. She's in charge of HR, she's in charge of finance, she's in charge of a few other things. We could have a team called business management. Inside that team would be a channel for finance, a channel for HR, a channel for whatever else we want. Each channel can behave individually. You can have a posting. You post here. So I'm going to show off, Jack is here. Now, if you notice that posts, that does not immediately show up on Jack's screen. Jack, do a chat back to me, not inside of this one, but give me a chat real quick inside of our private chat. So if you notice right now, I'm inside of a posting. Think of this, the best example I can give you is that this is like posting on Facebook, where you post a message, it can be seen by anybody that goes to look for it. But if you want to get somebody's attention, like Jack just did, this just showed up that I have one unread chat. I just click on that and that takes me into, and it shows me, you notice that's bold because that's unread. Clicking there, it gets read, it takes that one away. So the point that I'm trying to make here is this chatting is for instant communication. Teams is for more collaboration. We'll learn more about that next week. But inside of here, I can post messages. Now, if I want, I can say this is important, but I want to get Jack's attention. Let's say I had 5 people inside of this particular team. Anything I type in here is going to be visible to all of them. But let's say I was working on something ultimately everybody needed to know about, but Jack needed to take action. So what I would do is, would you please fix this? And I would type at, and you notice it comes up with suggestions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type at Jack. And what that does is it now just tagged his machine, and he's going to give me what's called an at call. He's going to give me an at symbol back. So Jack, inside, I'm going to go over to my chat window. Inside of the Teams channel, the webinar show off, would you give me an at symbol, please? So I want you all to see that. So let's say I'm chatting with Lisa on something. He just gave me an at mention. And if you notice, it showed up an activity, and it also showed up that inside of Teams, I have I don't know if you can see that, but it's an at symbol. So it's saying somebody mentioned me by using the at, we call it an at mention. So I can click on that. I see right here, there's the at symbol. He called out my name by typing at Michael Nelson and then test. As soon as I got here, you notice my activity went away as well. The reason I bring this section up in talking about chatting is because this is visible to anybody that has access to this particular channel or to the team. Jack, do we have questions, I think?
I was just going to say, we have one more question. So I think from Margot Cutter, I think a lot of people at our firm aren't receiving notifications when things are posted to the general chat. Is there a way to fix that? Also, why is this better than the chat function in Ring Central? I think our employees are split on which they're using. Yeah, so I think, yep.
Okay, so what I would do is basically this comes down to coming up with a company rule of which one's going to be used because they both have their pros and cons. If you want to start moving, so within Ring Central, it's really more of a chat only feature. One of the things that you can do, so it kind of depends upon how you want to do it. Again, if you want to get their attention, you do it inside the chat window. If it is going to be in a company area that you want everybody to be able to see, one of the things that you can do is say notifications. So I can say right here, I can go in and let me see, in here I can, sorry, in the general, again, the three ellipses, channel notifications. So I can say anytime there's a new post, if you see I have it turned off, I'm going to turn this on. Jack, go ahead and give me a post inside the webinar show off general, but don't at me. Because now what I've done is I've said anytime anybody posts, I want to know about it. And if you notice, it showed up here under activity and it highlighted or bolded that there was a new message inside of the general. So that's the way if you want to make sure that everybody hears that. But basically, the concept is a person should subscribe to and say, hey, I want to be notified by that. So if you want to get everybody to get it popped up in their message, you would do a group chat. That would be instantaneous, kind of like instant messaging or texting. If you want them to have access to the information, it belongs inside of a Teams channel. Again, the point that I want to make here is that all of this is public. One of the guys that I did a webinar with thought that in here, if he typed the @ mention, that made it private. And he actually typed some things that he thought were very private, which all of his employees got to see. So you want to make sure that you're using the right place to do the right type of communications. And Margot, if that doesn't answer your question, we can do a one-off or keep asking questions.
I just wanted to clarify Steve's says he how do we get on to look at teams to follow as you go on? Are you not seeing his screen right now?
No, I think Steve may be talking about actually using Teams in his own environment. So if any of you want to do that, all you have to do is, you can't see my start menu, but go to the start menu and type Teams. That'll launch Teams. It'll ask you to log in. You log in with your email address and your password, same one that you use for Office 365 logging into your email. Okay, so in the interest of time, I'm going to keep going. So again, we've talked about private versus public chatting, and now I'm going to talk about channels. So any other questions on chatting, private, public, that we've gone through so far? Okay, so now going on to channels. So again, we've already talked about chatting. So again, this is not really chatting inside of a channel. If you see, this is called posts, because posts are meant for everybody to see over time when they log in, when it's ready for them. So this is really something you decide at a company level, how you want to use your various teams, and these are called channels inside of a team. So show off 2 is the team. These are channels inside the team. So it's, again, it's not really a chat, but if you want to post something that's available to everybody that's in that channel, but you want to get somebody's attention, you do it with the @ mention, like I did with Jack. So here @ Jack, and that's going to pop up on his screen that he got an @ mention. And you notice right here, it shows his name with a link on it. So I know I've done an @ mention that way. So one of the reasons that you want to use teams and channels is this, and that's the files menu. So when I pulled up the outline, I pulled it up from the files folder inside of this team. You click on this. Jack, go ahead and do me a favor and open that. So Jack's going to go open it on his side. If you notice right here, if you notice I never left Teams, I am in the word app. 2 terms I want you to get used to because you're going to hear them over and over the next several weeks. You have app versus application. The app is web-based. You can get to it from any browser, anywhere, and it's all web-based. You don't have to have the application installed on your desktop. A lot of you, especially those of you that have been with us for a long time, remember, are all using applications. We installed Microsoft Office application on your desktop machine. If you're not on the internet, you can still launch all of the applications. With apps, they're web-based, so by default, you have to have access to the internet. Now, if you'll notice, when Jack logged in, something changed right up here, and I now see that Jack is actually on this document as well. So this is one of the real powerful things. We're going to go more in depth in session 2 on collaboration, but right now, Jack, go ahead and add something next to number 1 where it says chat. So you can see he's typing right there. And Margot, I think this may answer something that you were talking about. If we wanted to, we can both be typing at the same time and talking about it at the same time. So we can collaborate on this document together. It shows me who is where. Emin showed up here. I put my mouse over that and it shows me that Jack is there. So if you've got more than a couple of people, you can see who is doing what. So we talked about, so that's how we would modify and co-author inside of a channel. But let's say I've already got some other documents that I've got on my desktop that I want to share inside of this channel. So I'm going to close this document. Top right over here says close, back into my folder. Now, there's several different ways I can get documents up here. I can click upload and I can go and search for whatever I want to upload. I'll go ahead and do an upload document. And it just simply pops it up there, bam, shows me that it's up there. The other way I can do it is I can drag and drop. Let me hold on just a second. So I can do a drag and drop this way, and I had to have, let me see, I had used pictures of me and Jack, so I'll use Jack's headshot, just drag, drop, that uploaded it in the background. If you put something up there you don't mean to, 3 ellipses, and delete it. It's going to confirm yes. Now it's been deleted. So you can do the upload, you can drag and drop, or another really cool feature, because again, this is a web-based app, I can do a new Word document. I'm going to give it a title. I'm going to save it. I give it a name and it automatically creates the document. Now I can start typing immediately. And Jack could jump onto that one if he wants. I'm going to go ahead and close it. And it's automatically created inside of the files folder of this particular channel. So if you've got something that's going to be used by your entire company, a lot of you are going to relate to the S drive. That's what we used to call the shared directory for most of you all. If it were something we're going to be on the S drive, that would not necessarily belong in a Teams folder. If you're doing a one-off, then a one-off team, so like a collaboration team, or let's say like you're putting together a holiday party, that would be a perfect use of a Teams folder. So the people who are members of the holiday party would be a member of the team. They would have access to all the documents here, but you're not cluttering up your main drive that the whole company uses. So any questions on that?
We do have a few questions. First one here is when you edit a doc in Teams, does it update the version in OneDrive?
Okay, so remember that Teams is saved in a, Teams is not saved, so this folder is not in OneDrive. So actually, good question, Steve. We have SharePoint.
Margo.
Oh, Margo, sorry. We have SharePoint, we have OneDrive, and then we have Teams. They all ultimately save data to SharePoint. This will be a little bit more on the advanced class, but all of those documents are saved in different areas. So SharePoint is meant for documents that are shared. OneDrive is meant for yourself, kind of like the old My Documents folder. And then the teams is when it's meant for some of your users, a team, instead of the entirety of the company. So it doesn't save it in OneDrive, but if I take your question a little bit further, I can get to any of my documents and Teams from any web-based place that I am. I can get to it from Teams. I can also get to it from my phone because I have Teams installed on my phone. Let me know if that doesn't answer your question.
And then we had one other one from Jason Stewart. Is Teams integrated with World Docs?
No, Jason, sadly it's not. There continue to be more and more integrations. And as a matter of fact, let's just make sure. World Docs. No, not yet. But you do see the amount of applications. Now, this is constantly growing. I'm jumping way ahead there. That's in lesson 3, so that's a little bit more advanced on the hacks and trips. But no, it's not integrated with World Docs. It's not yet integrated with private line of businesses. There are some that some are not yet there. Not yet there though. In a law firm, and I know I've got several law firms on here, this would be really good for so if you have a particular team that's coming together on a case, but it's kind of a one-off, you might have 2 attorneys, maybe a couple of the law clerks and an admin involved. That would be a perfect way to utilize this. You can, Jason, I'd have to get some help from one of our techs, but you could probably put a hyperlink to the World Docs document inside of here, inside a link inside of when you're doing a post to the team. Hey, we just added this to World Docs, go check it out here, and you could hyperlink it that way. Okay, so we talked about files, adding a new channel. So when I'm inside the webinar show off, let's say that I wanted to add a channel for session 2. Go ahead and I'm going to give it a name, and then I'm going to say the privacy. So by default, it's going to let anybody who has access to this team have access to this channel. Those are the default rules. They can be overrode, and you do it by saying make it private, and then you add the individual people that you want to have. I'm going to say make it standard. Go ahead and add it, and you're going to see right here, once it creates the channel, I've now got session 2. I've got my posts, I've got the files. Those are automatically created by default as soon as you create the channel inside. You always have these 3 things show up. Wiki, some people use that. We don't use it internally. It just hasn't worked for us. You'll notice here that I also have a hidden channel, and that's because this was another one. I just say show, and it brings it back in. And there's Jack's main. If I don't want to see that, I can go ahead and hide it again. The reason for that is that you will eventually find that you're going to end up with a lot of teams and a lot of channels, and sometimes it can get a little too noisy. There may be a channel inside of a team that you don't really care about, so you can go ahead and hide that. Doesn't mean you don't have access to it, you're just not seeing it at that particular time. So that's how you add a new channel. And again, it carries the permissions down from the team. So you don't have to worry about adding people if they're already a member of the team. The only thing is if you want to remove people, you would make that channel private. Other warning I'll give you, since most all of you are partners of ours, everybody complains about the amount of junk on their shared network drive. There's all these folders. People save stuff where they shouldn't. People keep creating new folders that shouldn't be there. Make sure that you have a conversation with your company and your employees before you launch this out. Work with us. We're happy to help you with this, to talk about how you want to structure teams. If you allow it to be a free-for-all, what you're going to end up with is 30 or 40 different teams, and then it just becomes messy. It becomes like that old S drive that just had all these documents and this data everywhere. So feel free to have one-off conversations with me about that as well. Talk to our team. That's what we're there for. So any questions on the channels portion of this?
Nothing new, you're good.
Okay. So let's talk about how do we create a team. So if you notice right here at the bottom, join or create a team. Again, remember up here is how I start a new chat. That pops me into the chat window. But under Teams, I say join a new team, join or create a team. I'm going to say create a team, and I'm going to go ahead and build it from scratch. Now I have three options: private, public, or organization-wide. Margot, this one I think you will care about. Private is just to whoever I put into that team. I have to add the particular team menus. Public means anybody inside of my organization can join it, but it doesn't show up on their list automatically. So they'd have to go and look for it, or you'd have to tell them. If you think eventually people might want to join in and you don't want to worry about adding people and there's nothing privileged in it, go ahead and make it public and then tell the people about it that you want to show up. The organizational wide is that forcibly joins everybody into the team, which means it would automatically show up on their, let me go ahead and create it. Just call it force team join. Bad name, but it gets the idea across. It's creating it in the background, and then what will happen is within a few minutes, that is going to show up on Jack's Teams stream as well. So it's a very, very simple, easy matter to create a team. Now, I'm going to, oh, and Jack already posted something. So you notice, and he didn't do anything to have that show up on his screen. You notice I knew he had typed something because that changed to bold. Now, that is a public team, and if you look right up here on the right, it tells me that it is an organizational wide team. If I go to show off 2, that one was as well, but I know, let me see, private, oh, those were all organization wide. But if I go to new show off, it actually says that it's available, but I can see members. So let me show you. I'm going to do a create a team real quick, and I'm going to make it private this time. Now I have to add a member at this point, or it's going to give me the option to create members in a second. And then add the members. I'll go ahead and add Jack to this one. I'm not gonna add Lisa this time. You have to remember to click their name. You type their name, you have to click add, and then you can say what privileges do they have. Member or owner. Owner obviously has elevated privileges. I'm gonna say member, close this, and now you'll notice that when I go into private team, right up here it says team. So again, that's team versus organizational wide. That's so if you jump into a team and you're like, wow, I wonder who can see this. That's how you can tell. Organizational wide, everybody has access. If I go to private team, all I have to do is click here and manage channel. Sorry, I hate doing things live sometimes. Private team, manage team. That'll tell me who is a member and who's members. So I and Jack are members of this particular team. So that's how you create users within a team. Not sure if I've gotten this question yet, but one that always comes up is, can you invite people from the outside? That is a qualified yes, and the reason I say qualified is that it has to be turned on by the administrator of the account, and you want to think about it from a security standpoint. So I have a private email account that I've added into right here. So my tlctech.com main account, I have a chat between that user and this user. So you can have people be inside your chats that are outside your company. So if they want to use Teams, the permissions have to be set up for it, but you can have private chats. You can also add them to a team so that they can see anything that's happening inside the team or inside the channel. That has to be turned on by default. It is locked down and turned off. So that would have to be turned on by us for you. Any questions?
I was going to say, you read Nellie's mind on that one. And then I've got a question from Joe. Can you change a team from private to organization?
Joe, great question. So let me go into new show off. So, oh, by the way, this one is private that I made. You can see that it's private because it has the little locked key. I'm going to go in and I'm going to be honest, I have never done this before. So yay, what fun doing this public, doing this live. So I'm going to go into the manage channel and settings. I can change the permissions. So the answer to that question, Joe, I believe is no. John, would you please, Jack, would you please write that down and make sure that we give a follow-up with Joe to verify? But I do not believe
Yeah.
it is possible to change from manage team. Hold on, it's actually the team that needs to be done. Settings, guest mentions team, fun. I do not see this. No, once it's created, I do not believe it can be changed, but Joe, we will follow that up and make sure that we get an answer for you. And we'll, Jack, we need to also mention that to the on session 2,
Sure thing.
so that we answer that for everybody.
And then one more question. Is there a way to allow this feature for specific users? And by feature, she meant having chat with outside users.
Yeah, I cannot limit it to a particular person, but we can limit it to a domain. So basically, instead of saying it is wide open, anybody can invite anybody, what we could do, so for example, Margot, you could say, I want to allow anybody from tlctech.com to be allowed to be added to a team or to a channel. We are actually doing this with one of our partners right now. We have an ad hoc project that we're doing, and we created I believe they're doing it through chat, not through Teams. They just created a chat, group chat amongst 5 or 6 people, 3 people in my company, 3 people in theirs, and that's how they're communicating back and forth. That way, again, remember when you're in a group chat, everybody can see what's being said inside that chat. So that's a good way to do it. 2 different ways. If there were a lot of documents that needed to be shared back and forth between that, it would absolutely belong as a team with a channel, because then they could put files into the channel, so they could share files easily that way. One thing before I forget, and we're getting close to the end and I got to get onto video. One of the other things to remember is, God, train of thought completely derailed on that one. My phone just rang and I was supposed to have it quieted. Hopefully that train that went off the rails will come back. Sorry, there it is. One of the things that you should find if you implement this in your company correctly is you should see a drastic reduction in internal emails. And that's one of the reasons to move to Teams, is you can really, really stop the noise. Inside of our company, we have a leadership team. I rarely, if ever, send them emails anymore. I do almost everything through the Teams channel, or we also have a chat amongst the 3 of us called leadership. So I use either one of those. If it's kind of one-off things that we don't need to remember, I do it in the chat. If it's stuff that we want to kind of preserve and we're going to be taking action on, then I do it inside of the Teams channel. So any questions on, before I move on from channels and creating a team? Okay, so now we're going to go to calling. So I'm going to go into a chat, and I've been chatting with Jack. Let's say I want to have I want to talk to him, and especially right now with the way things are, obviously we're doing a lot of these. All I have to do is I have to say an audio call. It's calling Jack. You notice right here my camera is turned off. So we're going to get a little bit of feedback when he picks this up. So I'm going to actually mute my microphone because we're actually using the microphone through the GoToWebinar. Jack, are you there to pick that one up? And Jack may have just lost his internet connection. So I think we have lost Jack. Okay, so luckily we have backup here, and I am going to do a call to Lisa. So I'm going to call her, I'm going to just call her without video. So, and then I'm going to show you how this changes. So she should pick up in a second. So we have Lisa here. Oh, she came on with video because she had turned on her camera. Now, my camera is not turned on, so she can't see me. If I want to make this video, all I have to do is turn my camera on, and you see that I showed up here in the bottom right-hand corner. Lisa, Jack lost internet is the best we can guess, because when I went to call him, he wasn't there. So I think yeah, he actually went offline. So this is how you can call somebody. Simply, there's a couple of different ways to do it. And I forget who, but somebody had asked about being in a video call, but still being able to go to chat. So I'm going to click on chat right now. And if you notice, Lisa just went up I'm still on the video call, but I can chat with Jack. Are you back? So
I am back.
okay, so we got Jack back in. So this is a
Sorry about
perfect
that.
way to show, no problem, we figured you lost internet. This is a perfect way
Yep.
to show that I'm in a meeting right now with Lisa. The reason you hear Jack is because that's through the GoToWebinar. But what I'm going to do is Lisa and I are talking, we're like, hey, we need to get some information from Jack. So if you notice the ellipses right here, show participants, that shows me who's on the call. I can invite somebody, so I'm going to invite Jack, and what that does is it adds him into the call. So it's now dialing him. You can see that right down here. Now he's going to show up, turn on. You notice that it now splits the screen that I can now see both of them. So further, if I wanted to keep chatting with somebody else, if I go into chat, it's going to drop it down to one window. Jack, would you please talk for a second?
Yep. Testing 1, 2, 3.
And what that should do, oh, it didn't. I thought that was going to pull actually Jack into the primary window.
I had it muted on the Teams for the feedback.
Okay. So, oh yeah. So do me a favor, unmute it and go back.
Yep.
And so you'll notice because he just spoke, he is now, Lisa was the one. Jack, go ahead and go ahead
Testing
and
1, 2,
yeah.
3.
And you notice
Testing,
as soon as
testing.
he talked, he showed up. Now we're getting feedback because we're now on two different audios. So Jack will go ahead and mute himself there. So this is how you can do meetings. If you wanted to record it, you simply go into the ellipses and say start recording. So you can record meetings that way as well. So this is how you can do video calls. I hope that answered the question about doing the chatting while you're on video. And Lisa, would you go ahead and blur your background for me? And Jack, why don't you put in a custom background so that they can see how that works? So I'll show you where they're going to do that. They go into more actions, they show background effects, and you can choose right here, it'll take a second. I can blur or I can choose a custom background. If you notice, Jack just blurred his background. Lisa's trying to decide what cool, oh, I was on mute. Lisa can't hear me. Lisa, would you do me a favor and choose a custom background for yours? Sorry about that, group. The fun part's about having two different GoToMeeting and a live Teams call as well. So Lisa's going to choose a customized background. Now, there are some built in through from Microsoft, and now you can also add your own. Jack, could you put that on our agenda for where that gets saved? It's kind of in a hidden area, but you can tell that way. So while you're in a call, you can also share your screen, and I think this was one of the questions. So let's say I'm meeting with them and I want to share a document that's on my screen. When I say share, you notice that it pulls up and it says all of screen 1, all of screen 2, or just a particular document. I'm going to go ahead and launch Excel. So I've got a new document that shows up. I'll do a blank document, and I have to go back and say share screen again. And now it brings up Excel. So I can say just share that one. You'll notice that it's got a red bar around it. Lisa and Jack are now seeing that particular document. When I'm ready to stop sharing, all I have to do is click I don't think you guys can see this, but there's an X button and it takes me back into the video meeting. So that's what we have for video sharing. I'm going to hang up on you both. And do we have any questions, Jack?
Yes, we do. I don't know if you were able to see any when I went offline there, but we've got how many people can you video conference with from Margot?
Great question. So you can video conference with as many as you, I think the limit right now is, I think it's close to 80, Margot, but right now you can only see 4 active people at a time. So they are going to change that. They're getting it up to 9 people, but if you're doing a staff-wide meeting, and I know you all have 30 odd people, if you want to be able to see everybody in the meeting, you're going to do a GoToMeeting or you're going to do a Zoom call for that one. Microsoft is likely, they've seen their tail handed to them by Zoom on that one issue alone. So my guess is they are quickly changing that. What else do we have, Jack?
And we've got one from Nelly. We've got, can you add people outside your organization to the video chat?
Yes, same rules apply. They have to be allowed in your organization at the administrative level. We have to add that domain to allow them to be invited in. You don't want to make it wide open. That just is too much of a security hole. And we can set it up so that you can be an administrator of that section as well. I see a question from Steve on, do we have to have phone service through the internet? No, not to make a call via Teams. Calls and videos via Teams are free. However, there is a Microsoft add-on license that you can get a dial-in telephone number that is embedded into a particular Teams channel. So you can actually have people from the outside in dial into a particular phone number, even if they don't have Teams. Oh, great. The next question from Margot, is there a way to schedule group video conference? Perfect, because that was the final thing I wanted to talk about. Inside of Teams, if you want to schedule a meeting, let's say I wanted to schedule one for 11 o'clock, I would click on 11. I'm going to do this one test for Margot. And I can require attendees, the same thing. I can say, yep, Jack's going to be in this one, Lisa's going to be in this one. The time, and if I wanted to, I can also assign it to a channel. So I'm going to go ahead and say this is going to go into the general webinar show-off channel, and I'm going to send the calendar invite. So notice right here, it's going to take a second to show up. But the other thing I want to point out is when I go into my email for this, actually my email and then my calendar. Oh, sorry, that brought up my full main calendar. That was not what I was expecting. I'm going to go log on as in Nelson. US. Now, in a second, you're going to see, and this is something all of you should have been talked about many times from Brett or myself about two-factor authentication. This is two-factor authentication. It just popped up on my phone and said, do you approve this? I just clicked approved and bam, I'm now in. So that's the safety about two-factor authentication. So I will show you now. I'm going to go into the calendar and that just showed up in my Outlook calendar. I can go in and it tells me join Microsoft Teams. It's got the link embedded in. That's the web calendar. That's my private one. And then here's what I have, and this is the calendar. So the calendar in here is pulling from your Microsoft Office calendar. This is when I talk about Microsoft trying to get this as a desktop. They're trying to use this as your primary thing. That's why they put the calendar in here, so you can see everything that you've got. They want to keep you inside this ecosystem as much as possible. So you can add, if you want to add people, you can just go back in, keep adding more people that way. So you can also say optional if they optional attendees that way as well. Now, one cool thing about this, if you schedule the meeting inside of a channel and you record it, that recording stays in the channel. So if you've got somebody that should have been at that meeting, didn't attend it, now they can go back and watch the meeting. Let me keep going through the questions. How secure is Teams? People have said Zoom is not very secure. Teams is extremely secure. Zoom had some issues that they're closing up. The biggest thing was people were posting Zoom meetings and not limiting their attendees. By default, people had privileges turned on because Zoom, it was meant easy to meet and share. and then people were doing what's called Zoom bombing meetings. Teams is extremely secure because basically, unless you're added into the channel or you're a member of the organization, you can't get into the meeting. Now, with that said, the one thing I can do, I don't have to be a member of this. I can add an outside person, like use my private Gmail account. So I can use my private email. You notice that it didn't autocomplete because it doesn't know who I am, but I can say invite that person, it'll send an update. That will let me do that meeting, but I come in purely as a guest with absolutely no privileges. So that's very secure. Ashley has a question. Do you have to always include attendees for it to show up on the Teams calendar and for it to be accessible to the whole team? Okay, so that one actually, Ashley, I may push that until session 3 on the tips and tricks, but quick and dirty, if you want it to show up on their calendar in Outlook, you need to invite them. If you do let me discard this. If you're inside a Teams and a channel, inside of here, so I can create, okay, I'm going to show you real quick. Let's do this. Session 2. So I'm going to do session 2. I'm going to do let me see, we'll do a Teams meeting. And I'm going to do that for right now, and there's a reason for that. Let me see, I'm going to do that here. I'm going to do it inside of session 2 there, and it says send. That's effectively the same thing as save. So it's now there, it's technically in session, and what should happen is when I go into the team, you'll notice that I have the meeting scheduled here. So anybody, because I've assigned it to this channel, anybody that has access to this channel can now simply click in and join the meeting. What will happen, and it's because I'm in a meeting, it's not going to present the same way, but what can happen is they can click in here and there will be a join button right there. They just simply click on join and join the meeting. Okay, that's what I had for how to do the meetings, inviting people from the outside, scheduling meetings, scheduling it into a channel. Let me see if we've got other questions. Can we get the recording of the tutorial? Yes. So before I'll go back to questions, let me do a couple of follow-ups. We're going to have, so in this particular one, we looked at chatting, private versus public, channels, which are inside of the teams, how to create a team, making calls, and scheduling a meeting, how to blur your background, and creating a calendar invite. So next week, we're going to be talking about collaboration inside of teams. We'll cover a little bit of what we went over, not much, but there'll be some reinforcement of a couple of items. We're going to send out an email tomorrow. There'll be a follow-up email from the GoToWebinar. It'll have a link to next week's webinar as well, and there will be a link for recording. This is going to get posted onto our website. Because this is going to be ongoing, we'll post these we'll continue to post these typically within 4 to 8 hours at the most. They'll be posted up onto the website. This particular time, I'll make sure that we send an email to all of the attendees, letting them know where it is so that they can forward it to their teams. So that's what I have. I am more than happy to stay on here and do as many questions as people want to ask. That's what we're here for. If you don't have any questions and you got what you need, this is the main part that I wanted to get covered, and then we'll go back to questions now. Jack, what do we have?
One more. In meeting notes, where does the file get saved?
Okay, so in meeting notes, so like if I let me see, who was that? MJ?
MJ.
So yeah. MJ, give me another follow-up and I'll move on to the next question. Are you talking about notes that I might have taken inside, like right here? Let's say that we had an ad hoc meeting, and we're calling this meeting. Okay, let me do May 6th. And let's say I took notes here. I'm taking notes. I'm just gonna type some chunk. Okay, that was a little too much. Okay, so test doc. I'm taking notes. Let's say I've done notes here. Are you asking where this particular item would get saved and how you could get to it? Type me in another question to clarify that one up for me, please. Let me see. Anne says, how did you change between visualizing your PowerPoint and then your face? Okay, Jack, we're going to jump into a meeting real quick. I'm going to call Jack. Oh, sorry, I'm not in Teams. That's where I messed up. Okay. Jack, I'm going to call you over here. So Jack and I are in a meeting now, or we will be in a second. I'm going to mute myself and he's going to mute himself as well. I'm down here in the right. Jack's here in my main window. Same as reverse. So on Jack's side, he's seeing full screen of me and he sees himself down in the right. If I wanted to share something and I click share, I would share like an Excel document. He just moved over so I can still see him down this way. But if I wanted to, I'm going to stop sharing. If I wanted to work on something inside the Teams with him, I click over here and I can go work on this document. But you see that it kind of pops that out in its own little window. So I can still see him. I can move that to my other screen, and then we could be co-authoring on this document. And does that answer your question? And then let me jump back over to MJ. In a scheduled meeting, is there a tab called meeting notes? Great question. That's what you mean. Okay, so scheduled meeting and meeting notes. I just hung up on Jack. MJ, I'm not sure. In the scheduled meeting, there's a tab called meeting notes. I'm not seeing the tab that you're talking about. There's, clarify that a little bit more for me, MJ. While she's typing that, do we have any other questions?
Not seeing anything else.
Okay, let me jump over in another window. Okay, NJ, during the session of the meeting. Okay, so Jack, let's go ahead and join this meeting. So go into this one that we created, test for Margot.
Was that in session 2?
Yeah, I'm going to turn off my video. Okay, so Jack started that one. I'll go ahead and join it. So during the session of the meeting, still not seeing the part
right here.
that you're...
When you hit the ellipses, it says show meeting notes.
Oh, okay. There are show meeting notes. Well, we are going to find out for you live. And by the way, people, this is one of the things I've never used this. This is one of the things that I want you to do with Teams. Play with it. This, you cannot break this. So test meeting notes. Capture meeting notes. Do that, and I'm going to save out of there. I'm going to go ahead, just to be safe, I'm going to record this now. And then I'm going to do again, show meeting notes, and I'm going to do another note. Oh, that's edited. Let me do a new section. Okay, so testing with recording. Okay, so we've done that. Oh, by the way, it also pops up on everybody and says you're being recorded. So it lets them know. I'm going to dismiss that. So we've taken a few notes here. I'm going to close that, and I'm going to hang up on the meeting. So in here, we've got it's been recorded right there, meeting notes. So actually really cool. And so let me see, that was MJ. Talk about learning things on the fly. So if you notice, that just added that, because prior to that meeting, we had posts, we had files, wiki. This just got added. So inside the meeting notes, there's the notes from the meeting. So cool beans. One of the things that we will find, this product is constantly evolving. It's one of the coolest things about it. So we're at 11 o'clock. I know some people need to drop off. Happy to stay on and answer questions as long as you all want, or discover new things with you like we just did with MJ. That was awesome. So again, Bold says that there's something there that you haven't read. And I am not seeing any new questions, so we are going to call this a wrap. Remember, the next week, next Wednesday the 13th at 10 a.m., we will do team session 2, which is going to be on collaboration. I welcome any feedback, welcome any questions. Feel free to send me an email saying, hey, could you cover this the next time? Could you make sure that you cover this in the tips and tricks? That's how we will make this better, is finding out what works, what you want to know about. So thank you all for attending, and we hope to see you next week.